I love it. Michelle's flying. Michelle's command center control for tonight. If we have any technical glitches, she'll get us out. So I love it. Welcome everyone. Happy Monday. We are excited for our workshop of the month. We've been trying to do different workshops. Well, we've been doing it for the last couple months. Been a few months since we came on with the healthy, happy hormone, or it's a tongue twister. Healthy, happy hormones. This is our workshop tonight. We were a little bit more general a couple months ago when we met with everyone. And then Shari, Ami, and myself, and I'll introduce everyone if you don't know, have been really working behind the scenes on just tonight. The goal of tonight and our intention is to bring you information that I don't know about you, I can feel like it can be overwhelming and confusing and hard to understand. And there's all these different words and things thrown at you. And so we're here today with our three areas of expertise. Ami's an amazing VFitter. She has been for over 5 years now. She does work in the medical profession in the women's health as a PA. And right, yes, I always get that. And and then we have Shari, our resident mindfulness, just health, holistic. And Shari and I we all are going to be interweaved, but we're bringing from you a holistic, a Western, a little bit of everything tonight so that you can take this information and you can be on the front lines of your healthcare. Because to me, that's the most empowering thing we can give you. And it's such our passion at VFit is that you have so much control over your health and well-being by the more you know, the more information, the more action you take. And as you'll see, as we interweave these different areas tonight, so much of what we do at VFit, and I just want to give you that confirmation to begin with, so much of what we do at VFit is really going to fold into all of these areas. So we're going to break down hormones. And if you think about hormones, it's not just the ones we think about like female hormones, which we are going to go through those as well, and then do carry some of those. When we're talking about hormones tonight, we're talking about it as the definition of a chemical messenger produced in your body that travels through the body into different tissues and organs and regulates your body. So a hormone is all the different things happening in our body. Our body is so interconnected, interweaved. It is so amazing and smart and created just perfectionately. And we just want to share more about how the body works and empower you to, if there's an area you want to explore further in your own health, to take that. Now, we're not here at all to diagnose. We're not going to be giving you any prescriptions. We're not going to be sharing any personal supplement recommendations or anything like that. We're giving you information that you can then have in your fit box and take further into your journey. And so we're going to start with Ami, and then she's going to go through the female health hormones. I'm going to hit on the metabolic health hormones. Shari's going to take it around to the more cellular health, heart health hormones. We'll take about 10 minutes each, and then we'll open up for some question and answer. Now, I just want to preface, we could sit here for hours talking about this stuff. We can do an entire workshop series. So we're not going to probably go to the depth that you want to. We'll love to explore this more. Would love your feedback. I think we can go on again. I think this is such an important topic, but just know this is just kind of a hormones 101 tonight. And then we can go from there and bring your questions. You can type your questions in the chat box, but I'll probably wait until the end to address them in case we cover them throughout the workshop. Does that sound good, everybody? If you need to get up and get your wiggles out, go for it. But I'm so excited. Ami has become a dear friend. She came through Maria during COVID when Maria lived out here on the West Coast as her OB. And I'm honored. Ami and I talk a lot and go back and forth. And I just love her open mind and her passion for women's health and meeting women where they're at in her own experience. And I just think she brings such a breath of fresh air and the perspective from the medical side that we don't always get, and to weave it into what we do. And so we'll get started over there. She's in the Bay Area, Team Bay Area. She had a work day, and everyone called in sick to her office today. So she ran the show, and her daughter was sick. So when it rains, it pours, but she's here with us. And she probably worked out at 5:30 this morning already. Yep. All right. Here you go.
All right. Hello, everyone. Like Rachele introduced, my name is Ami. I have been part of VFit. I know I work out with a lot of you in the morning, 5:30 a.m. Gal for sure. Yes, I did work out this morning with Lauren for Tabata. Love starting my day off that way. Love starting it off with VFit. Like Rachele said, I am in the Bay Area in San Jose, and I have been in women's health for, gosh, probably over like 15 years now. And it's a passion of mine. The longer I keep doing it, the more I just get so more in depth in it. You know, when I first started out, I was like 28, 29 years old. So looking at pregnancies and, try to raise babies and stuff. And it's fun to transition now as we talk about hormones. But like Rachele said, these are all hormones that we were all born with, and we're now learning how to deal with it. So I did do a PowerPoint presentation. I'm a visual learner, so I thought I'd try to do something like that. So I'm going to try to see, Rachele, you're able to share your screen, or you are muted, Rachele, so I won't be able to hear what you're saying.
Yes, let me try. Do you want to try to pull it up or do you want me
So
to?
I
Here,
can, okay, it says share. Okay.
here.
Oh, you look like you're doing it. Yep.
You just have to tell me when to. Oh, what happened? Let's see. Oh, you started. Wait, I think only one
Did
of
I
us.
start
See,
doing
this is
something? It says I'm sharing. Oh, nope, I don't need to be sharing. I'm going to stop sharing.
okay. Replace.
Okay, your
This is
turn.
not our strength at VFit.
Nope, I am not
All
good at
right.
this. Okay. Oh,
Okay, I think we're on. So now you'll
okay.
just have to,
Will
oh
you
gosh.
run it
Okay.
if I tell you to flip this? If you press play, are you able to press?
We got this
Oh,
team.
wait, the play button's
But
right. Do you see that? Keep going to your left. Yep. Do you see it right? Yep.
oh, right there. Yep.
Yeah.
Hold on, I have to move this thing. Okay, here we go, team.
And then I guess if you want to just kind of take a side by side, I don't have a ton of information on there, but see if this can work. Perfect. Can everyone see that okay? Yeah. Okay. So when Rachele, Shari, and I were talking, we kind of grouped our hormones. There's so many different types of hormones, not just the typical estrogen, progesterone we always hear about. So all three of us have taken different approaches of it. So I've been tasked with something called the rhythm makers, which is kind of like what my bread and butter is as being an OBGYN. And these are our hormones that we're born with. We all have these hormones, and they are key to help shape who we are, help us deal with how we feel. It shapes our energy, our fitness, our mood, and our well being. And the five hormones I'm going to be tasked talking about are estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, LH, which stands for luteinizing hormone. So a lot of times we'll just see abbreviated as LH, and the same thing with FSH, which is the follicular stimulating hormones. And we oftentimes think of these hormones as just reproductive, right? We're just here to when we start puberty and to pregnancies, but they actually are not just there for reproductive usage. They did actually define how we feel and how we move and how we show up every single day. And unfortunately, after the age of 35, these hormones do shift. And that's why we're feeling some of the way we're feeling. That's why we're all kind of sitting here going, what's happening in our bodies? And understanding why this is happening gives us more power, right? I don't want panic. We want to have power to be able to understand what's happening to our bodies. Have you head over to the next one, Rachele? So I like this analogy. Our hormones are a symphony. And I love using this analogy because I always think of my kids. They are in their school orchestra and they have a beautiful orchestra together. And as you, there's so many different types of instruments, and that's our hormones are. There's so many types of hormones, and they're not just one solo artist. It's just not one member of the orchestra. It's not just the violin playing. In a symphony, in an orchestra, we all work together. So no hormone is one solo artist. It's our hormones are working together in an orchestra together. So if one instrument changes, if one hormone changes, the whole rhythm changes for us. So each hormone has a role, anything from energy to muscle tone to helping us sleep to our mood. And when we understand the shifts, then we begin to work with our bodies and not fight against them. I'll have you go on to the next one. So the first hormone we're going to talk to you about is estrogen, right? We hear a lot about this word estrogen, and I like to kind of group this. I read this word as like the energizer hormone. It's the hormone that helps build lean muscles, helps with bone mass, keeps us nice and strong. It boosts our mood, our brain function. It keeps our joints healthy, keeps from achy, keeps skin elasticity. It keeps our energy strong. Estrogen makes us feel vibrant. And as it fluctuates, goes up and down, we might notice that our workouts might be easier, might be harder. Recovery becomes easier. Sometimes it's harder. There are days when you're like, wow, that was just a really bad workout. I shouldn't say bad workout, but you just don't feel as well. You can't give as much. And a lot of times, look back, where are you in your cycle? Depending on where in your cycle can inhibit the way we perform. I had a great conversation with my son. He's in middle school right now, and we're talking about they have to run the mile and they get timed for it. And he comes to me and he says, Mom, it's not fair that the girls' time is higher than the boys' time. And I said, I was totally all about that in elementary school. But he was telling him, as we get older, you go through puberty, hormones change, and the girls can't perform, and it's not fair for them. We have to have them run all the time. Their times are going to differ, where boys, it's a little bit different for boys too. So yeah, as we get older, that estrogen does decrease, and then that really starts causing a fluctuation in our body from the way we work out, the way fat is stored in our bodies. And I always say that decline doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It just means we need to learn how to adjust with it by the way we train, by the way we eat, and the way we recover. Can I get the next slide? Okay, so the second hormone is progesterone. And this is kind of the opposite. This is the calming hormone. And it helps with balance estrogen and our cortisol levels. It supports deep sleep. And it also promotes calmness and our ability to focus. So I like to say the progesterone is like the chill hormone. Okay, it helps us sleep. It keeps us grounded. So when it dips, you might feel kind of like wiry, kind of feel a little bit tired at the same time, kind of on edge. And that's why stress management is such an important thing. So as progesterone starts declining, you might notice more like anxiety, more agitation, irritability. You might notice you're not sleeping as well. So we got to learn how to manage our stress, and also thinking our workouts are important, but our rest days are just as important as our workouts are. The next slide. Okay, so the third hormone we have is testosterone, right? That's that male hormone we always talk about. We always think that men are the ones who have testosterone, but we women, we also have it. And this is our motivator hormone. And this hormone, it fuels our motivation. It fuels our drive, our libido, and it supports our muscle mass and our metabolism. And we all make that testosterone. Like we are always thinking it's just for men, but no, women have a little bit of it. And as our other hormones decrease, like in the symphony, the testosterone also decreases it. And we need testosterone in our body. It's tied to confidence and our physical strength. And so when it starts declining, you might start feeling more fatigue again, not having the same amount of muscle mass. Your libido might get a little bit lower. And really and truly, some of the best ways I've been telling patients of mine is to really increase it. The testosterone naturally is what all of us VFitters are doing: strength training, eating well, is the best natural booster for ourselves. The next one. All right, and then I grouped the last two hormones together, the FSH and the LH, together, because what they do, there are ovaries messengers. That's why I call them the messenger hormones there. And like I said, the FSH stands for follicular stimulating hormones, and the LH is the luteinizing hormones. And basically, FSH and LH is a hormone. It's our brain's way of saying, hey, ovaries, what's going on here? They are the messengers of the ovaries. They speak for our ovaries. So they're the ones who help control ovulation and hormone release. But so as we get older and our ovaries start shrinking down, the brain's going, hey, ovaries, what's going on? What's going on? And the brain's going, FSH, LH, get out there, do your jobs. Let's get out there. And so that level will start increasing as the ovarian function starts decreasing, which is going to start signaling some perimenopausal transition. And that increase of FSH and LH, that's where we're feeling these, like, I'm sure you've heard the words like roller coaster of emotions, like this stage of our lives where our hormones will go up and down. This is the reason why we are getting all these roller coaster of symptoms in our 40s. The next slide. So what I wanted to do is take kind of, as VFitters, we are really in tune with our hormones and our well-being and stuff. So I wanted to kind of get an idea of breaking down our hormones and how it affects our everyday life. So when in our fitness world with our workouts stuff, the decrease of the estrogen to testosterone, that is what is causing us to have maybe more muscle aches and not being able to recover as fast. Our energy, how many of us are like, gosh, I'm so much more tired, I become more tired easier, I'm not sleeping well. That's going to be linked to progesterone levels coming down, in addition to cortisol, which I believe Sherry's going to be talking a little bit more about too. So that's the reason why our energy levels come down. Mood instability becomes another issue at this phase with our hormones going everywhere, and that's linked to the decline of the estrogen, decline of progesterone. Remember, that's our chill hormone. If we don't have our way of saying chill, our anxiety, agitation, irritability is increasing then too. And then that brings the neurotransmitter, the serotonin. There's a link to that too, which I think Sherry will also be getting into that a little bit more. And sleep. Insomnia becomes another thing a lot of women complain about. And I think I keep talking more about the fact that we keep linking the lack of progesterone with that too. So every workout, mood swing, cravings, any of those symptoms that you're feeling, they're connected to our hormones and this decline of hormones. And once we understand the pattern of when this decline is happening, we can better work out and figure out how we work out, how to nourish our bodies, get the rest that we need, listening to our bodies, so that way our lives are a little bit smoother. The last slide. Okay. So how do we thrive with our hormones, right? Our hormones are going to be doing what they're going to do. We have to learn to accept it and learn how to work with it too. And again, I think this is our pillars of VFit here. I don't think I'm saying anything none of us already know there too. So this is the time, these HIIT classes that Rachele has introduced over the summer with the high intensity strength training, along with the cardio burst at the end. That's our bread and butter here. So we got to start prioritizing the strength training and start talking more about protein here. We need to prioritize our sleep and sleep management, or sleep and stress management too, as our hormones are kind of going all over the place, and then track our symptoms. So I always want everyone to encourage women's health power here, that this stage isn't about losing our edge, that we're not getting old here. We are not losing our edge here. We just have to learn a new rhythm. And once we figure out that our hormones aren't fighting against us, they're just trying to guide us, and we got to figure out how to be stronger, smarter. So I always tell everyone, give ourselves grace, right? Don't feel guilty. It's okay if fat's shifting a little bit here or there. Your pants may not be fitting the way you wanted to fit them. They're guiding us, and don't feel guilt over it. We're only going to get stronger together. And you're not alone, basically, is what I'm trying to tell you. And that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of talk to you about, are some of our rhythm maker hormones. Sherry, I'm going to give it back to you.
Perfect. Super well done. We do have one quick question.
Sure.
And just because it does go. And yeah, we're going to go into more of this in a second. Michelle, I think, said, so obviously one thing too, we're all at different kind of parts of our journey as women, from, pre-menopause to perimenopause to menopause and beyond. And I think the whole power in all of this is that we are learning so much more in all areas of this. It's not just like, oh, you hit menopause and your life's over and everything's going downhill. Like there's so much power. And I put this in huge print. You said power, not panic. I think everybody needs to embrace that. That was so powerful. Power, not panic. And so, yeah, that was really well explained. And I don't want anyone to be like, oh, I'm already past that. Or like, as we'll get into the next sections, you're going to see how there's still hormones that you're going to have forever in your body that are still going to play a huge role in your health. So Michelle just asked, what I think you're assuming hormonally, what happens with where did it go? An immediate hysterectomy hormonally.
Oh, good question. So, Michelle, that depends on the hysterectomy. If they took out your ovaries, you will go into pretty much immediate menopause. So, remember, I said the ovaries are the ones that are responsible for the hormones there. So, it depends on the hysterectomy. If they go in and just take out the uterus, and a majority of OBGYNs will probably only take out the uterus. They will only take out the ovaries if there's a risk factor, something, ovarian cancer, something that's detrimental to your health, because we want to keep the ovaries as long as possible. So if you just have a hysterectomy where we just remove the uterus, your body will still naturally go into the menopause state when your ovaries are ready to do so. Okay, then.
Perfect. All right. And again, we can go into more of this. I want to make sure we get, we definitely have a hard out at 5:30. So I want to make sure everyone, we get through the next part. And that was awesome. Again, this is a conversation we can have. Our goal is to empower you to, one thing I really recommend, or I believe the more we know about our health and our bodies, and first of all, it's intuitively, nobody knows your body like you have that gut instinct if something's off. But I do encourage people to get some baseline testing done. Shari has a functional doctor. Ami's in a regular physician office. I use a company that we just started that does a full panel of over 100 blood tests through a lab and then gives you all your information, which you can go to a doctor with. And so be proactive about your health. Not every normal doctor is just going to run the level of tests that you should want to know. And again, they're baseline tests. Like if you start to see a pattern, right, they're hormones, so that's kind of a snapshot. But if you are starting to get your tests done every 6 months, 12 months, you now have so much information on what is going on with your body. And then from there, you can seek different kinds of treatments, supplements. Obviously, everything we do here is so helpful of being on the front lines, but I believe knowledge is power and it takes the panic out of it. Sometimes it could be scary to go get all those tests done because you don't want to hear bad news or what's going on. But when you know better, you can do better. And so I firmly believe if you're interested in any of that more specifically, I just think that it's very, very important to have control and some knowledge over what's going on in your body, because the other, I loved it, it is a symphony. And that actually translates perfect into my part. I don't know if ever I emailed the worksheet out earlier today that kind of just goes over each hormone we're talking about, gives a little key role in the body. And then there's a section for notes. A lot of you are obviously taking notes. This is going to be recorded. You can come back to it. I'm going to transition into the metabolic hormones in the body. And this is, again, I love that analogy of a symphony. That was beautifully put. So I'm going to talk more about the way our body metabolically functions. So as far as like your metabolism, your immune system, your the way your brain works. So I'm going to touch on 5 hormones and then one kind of test that's a good marker of what's going on in this area of your body. And so your metabolic hormones are kind of your silent messengers in the body. And they all have different roles. And I guess I'll share, I'm not a very PowerPoint person, but oops, let me see if I can get this off. Okay, so I created, can you guys see this little image? This is kind of like a 5-year-old drew something. But we're going to talk about kind of the metabolic part of your hormones, which is glucose, insulin, cortisol, leptin, and your thyroid hormones. So again, some of you might have more knowledge in some of these areas, but I want to start with, your body is, so if you want to take a quick screenshot of that, I'll leave that up for another second. Your body's main source of energy comes from glucose. And that's the food we eat. That's the energy we're giving to our body. It's turning it into glucose. What happens is it needs the insulin. So your body eats, it releases glucose, but it doesn't know what to do with that glucose until some of these other hormones come into play. And so we need insulin to basically unlock the cells and allow the glucose to go where it needs to be used the way it's meant to be. The problem happens though in our day and age with so much processed food and so much excess stress, and we'll go into the other hormones, but there starts to be an imbalance, like these messengers aren't talking to each other right anymore. And I like the analogy. It's almost like the boy who cried wolf. Like every time glucose is released into the body, the insulin has to come in and do its job. But if it's constantly in a state of fluctuation, overdrive, it just stops working efficiently. And that's where we get into the type 2 diabetes and a lot of this high blood sugar, which the good news about this is it is reversible. It is preventable. There is so much, you don't need to, I'm not knocking medicine at all, but I want to arm you, like there is so much you can do on the front lines of your health to deal with, again, your blood sugar levels. And this is on a metabolic level. And so insulin's like the gatekeeper. Then we go into another hormone, which is leptin, which again is actually produced from your fat cells. Even everybody's got fat cells. It's a messenger with your brain. And this is where I just think the body is so cool. And this is why we can't just look at one piece of the puzzle, right? That your body is an intricate, I love just symphony. I'm going to keep saying that because that's such a good analogy. Leptin is like your brain telling your body when it's full, when it's satiated. And a healthy metabolic system has that really good signaling. So if you are someone, and again, this is just information, that has problems with those hunger cues, like there's not something wrong with you. There could truly be a chemical imbalance going on in your body where it is not telling, that system is not talking correctly to itself. And again, insulin comes into that whole play. Is it working properly? Is it getting the signals where it needs to go? Cortisol, I kind of going out of order of my paper, but we all hear about cortisol. And here's the thing, all of these hormones are necessary. What happens is they get out of the proper levels they should be. That's where we start to get the health issues. That's where we start to store the extra fat. That's where we get the brain fog, the fatigue. So we're not trying to get rid of any of these hormones. They're in your body. Like Ami said, we're born with them. We have them for our whole lives. But we want to get them in balance to the way that they're meant to be. And just, it does happen as we get older that things, the system's been working for a while. It's not going to work as efficiently, but we don't want to throw our hands up and be like, oh, I'm just getting older. Oh, this doesn't work. Like that is not true. There's so much you can do. So cortisol is actually a really important hormone. It is our fight or flight. It is our keeping us safe. It is a bear chasing you. The problem is we've now turned to a society of being in constant fight or flight panic. And Shari will go more into this, so I won't hit on this so much. But every time we release too much cortisol, it's our body's going, oh my gosh, I need energy, release the glucose. And then the insulin's coming in and going, oh, I got to save the day and get it to the right place. And so you're having the symphony that sounds like a rock concert gone bad because everything's not talking properly to each other. And so those hormones, and then again, that comes in with the leptin. So those four hormones really, really, really work together. Your cortisol levels are highest, they should be highest when you wake up, because that's your body's natural way of kind of coming to life and waking up. They peak about 30 to 45 minutes after you wake up. And so if you can, you don't necessarily want to roll out of bed and hop into a HIIT class. Like you don't necessarily want to have coffee the first 30 to 45 minutes of your day. You want to let your cortisol levels balance out a little bit. So maybe you can journal, maybe you can go for a walk. Obviously, we'd rather you get up and work out than not, but think about giving yourself a little bit of quiet time in the morning. And then, they're supposed to peter out towards bedtime and help you go to sleep. But the problem is so many people are in just constant stress. We can't stress enough. All of us in all of our talks, like we talk about fitness, we talk about what you eat. That's so, so important. But stress management, it is the catalyst in all of this. So it's so important that we're managing that stress. If you did my Rise program, we had a very, very grounded morning, because I believe how you start your morning. If you're checking your email first thing in the morning and you're thinking you have to respond to everybody and you're checking your news and your email and blah, 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 all of a sudden your body's just, again, all those systems, the insulin, the glucose, everything's just starting to go haywire from the beginning of your day. And so that's kind of a big thing. And then there's a test, again, all of these can be tested, like insulin, all of these can be tested. There's normal levels to be in. And the thing is, if one is off, you want to look at the whole picture. So again, I'm not here to like go over your results, but I do believe, and you can quote me on me, I'm not sure what a standard blood panel is. You can definitely get more than the standard, and I would recommend getting into a lot of these areas. And one a good marker to look at is your A1C level. And I like this, it's kind of like your blood sugar report card, because it's looking at a 3-month period of your body. So there's not many tests that we can see like what, so that's a pretty good marker of a lot of like inflammation and things that could start going wrong. And again, I know it's scary sometimes to get a bad test result back. I just had all of my work done, over 100 tests, and as healthy and strong and as I am, I didn't have everything perfect. Okay. I have stuff to work on. And so I do think it is important to know this stuff. And so the A1C, it kind of is reflecting your average blood sugar over a 3-month period, which is important because, like I said, that's seeing if all those hormones are working together in that pretty symphony. And then the last thing I want to touch on, I'll turn it over to Shari, is thyroid. And this is important too, because we don't want to just, the standard thyroid test is to look at your, this is the good analogy that really helped me, is just to look at your thyroid stimulating hormone. But we want to look closer at our T3 and our T4. Those are really, really, really important markers. And here's a good analogy. The TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone, which is the normal test that's looked at, that's kind of like the manager of the hotel or of the office. Like, it's the manager. But your T4 and your T3 are the workers. And so we want to make sure the workers are coming to work. And so, we want to look at both. So T4 turns into T3. I'm not going to go into all the chemical stuff, but you kind of look at the T4 is kind of the back of the house, like the housekeeping and getting all the ducks in order behind the scenes. And then the T3 is your frontline worker out on the front. And so they're very important to look at all of those markers, because that's going to give you, again, just a fuller picture. And our thyroid does so much in the body. Our thyroid, I mean, it's a small little gland in your neck, but it does so much in your body as far as your energy, your metabolism, your how hot or cold you are. It can be overactive, underactive. And again, there's things to do. There are, sometimes some slight medication and stuff like that in that area, but know that you have a lot of control. I was going to say, I think that kind of goes over what I was talking about, but I think if you're feeling off, you've got to start to like dig into some of these areas. And the best thing, like we all said, everyone's going to say this, muscle is the most amazing. It helps you with your glucose. Muscle, building lean muscle helps every one of these hormones that all of us have talked about today. And so strength training is vital, not just to like healthy bones, and it is, but it affects your brain health. It affects every one of these hormones. Eating real food. One good thing to help with blood sugar too, that's simple, that everyone can do, is go for a walk. Like, move your body a little bit after you eat. That's really going to help you balance blood sugar levels. It could be a 5-10 minute walk. Processed food is, just wreaking havoc. And it's hard because, there's just so much of it. Even now, the protein phase, like we laugh, like there's protein popcorn and there's protein pickles, and just read your ingredients. If you can't pronounce most of it, your body probably does not know what to do with it in your body, is how I kind of think of ingredients. I'm teaching my kids to look for dyes, and it's so sneaky because the dyes, it goes in order of what's the most in the ingredients, and the dyes are at the bottom. So they're sneaky. Read your ingredients and just start to be curious, start to listen to your body. What makes you feel crummy? What makes you feel better? You're intuitively so smart, and know that, you have a lot of control. So not power, not panic. All right. Yeah, and obviously we can get into, like I said, we want to keep this pretty 101. But I think with hormones, we, for so long, just thought they're like, our ovulation, our period, all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, hormones are so much deeper than that. They affect our mental health, which is we'll go into more right now with Sherry. So I'll go through these questions after I turn it over to Texas.
All right. Hi, everybody. So I'm going to talk about heart health hormones. And so the handout that Rochelle gave you, great little place there to take notes. If you did not print that out beforehand, do print that out after if you like, or, if you're old school like I am, just taking notes. But I just want to start because I think when we think of heart health, right, we immediately think of things like cholesterol, blood pressure. We've heart health has been kind of in the news for quite some time. Your diet. Back in the 80s, it was, stop eating fat, like sugar was okay. And now we've discovered that it's really not the good healthy fats and stuff that we were eating. It is all the sugar that we're eating. Um, so there's been a lot of more information coming out about heart health again over the past, 40 years now. My interest in health and fitness in general came from heart health. My dad had bypass surgery when he was like 49 years old, so very, very young. So I know there's a genetic component in my family to be, have issues with heart. But what we don't really think about, and what I never really thought about, was the hormone level, right? When people talk about hormones, I think about estrogen, progesterone, thyroid, and never really stop to think about how important hormones are to our heart health. They are really our lifelong protectors of heart health. So that is what I'm going to talk to you about. Many of the hormones that play a very big role in our heart health. So if you've got that handout, we're just going to kind of go through it. DHEA, right? That is it's made by our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands set on our kidneys. So your kidneys are kind of here in your low back area. Your adrenal glands set on top of your kidneys. And you know how Ami again said everything is a symphony, right? It's these hormones don't act alone. Well, DHEA, which is made by the adrenal glands, which is very important to our heart, is also a precursor to estrogen and testosterone. So, there's that full circle. Like it's all connected. Our reproductive organs, our heart health, our thyroid. So just, I think that's the big theme that you're going to continue to see through here is how everything is interconnected and also how it naturally starts to decline with age. So there are actually supplements out there. You can get over the counter supplements for DHEA. Your doctor can prescribe them, but tests don't guess, right? So a lot of times we think, oh, DHEA, it's out there. Everybody says, take it. I'm going to go to the drugstore and buy this over the counter hormone. It really is important to get testing done so that you know where your levels are. Now they're always going to fluctuate and there's not, we're all different, but it is better to have some baseline testing. So I think this is some knowledge to go into your doctors with and say, hey, I know this stuff about hormones. Can we look at some of these? Can we test some of these? But DHEA, it supports our vascular elasticity and our blood flow. It helps with muscle tone, mental energy, and immunity. And it also acts as an anti-aging and cell repair hormone. What are some things that we can do without even a doctor intervention? You're going to see this theme over and over again. Exercise, right? Number one, exercise. High intensity interval training, as well as heavy resistance training, both of which we have recently really been adding into VFit. They stimulate our DHEA production. Our diet, right? Eating those healthy fats, the avocados, the nuts, the olive oil. So complete opposite of what, was kind of being said back in the 80s, like, let's don't eat the fats. Let's, sugar's okay, but not fat. We want to make sure we're getting those healthy fats. Something else that's really important, and this is one I've really had to look at personally as well, is, a lot of what's in the news is intermittent fasting. And there is some good to be said about intermittent fasting in moderation. So a lot of times we hear something in the news and we're like, man, I'm going to go all out. I'm going to fast, 18 to 20 hours a day. I'm going to eat in this 4-hour window. That is going to raise our cortisol. That is going to add stress to our body. So when we hear about fasting, it's more of that natural fast. Like you eat dinner at 6 p.m., you go to bed, you stay up a little while, you go to bed, you wake up at, 6 or 7 a.m. and you have breakfast. So we're fasting kind of 12 to 14 hours. So again, I'm not here, I'm not your doctor, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but that is something to look at and talk to your doctor about if you are doing those longer fast. I was kind of doing some 16-hour fast. I had to cut that back because I was noticing my stress level, my cortisol was raising. So just be aware, in the day of social media, anybody and everybody can have an internet, an Instagram site telling you what you should do, and it's not always what's truth. So test, don't guess, and talk to your doctor about any of these medical type things that are going on. So our next hormone is our human growth hormone. This is our repair master. It boosts our nitric oxide. It's really important for cellular repair of our heart. It's essential for rebuilding tissues, for maintaining muscle, and our heart is a muscle. It's the whole nitric oxide piece of things, very, very important to our heart health. Kind of another little piece of that is when we breathe in our nose has receptors and things that are designed to do specific things in our body. And when we breathe in our nose, that helps to release and activate nitric oxide. So that's one of the important reasons when we are, huffing and puffing and over breathing in and out of our mouth, we want to, as much as possible, try to breathe in our nose. And so people that are mouth breathers or mouth breathers at night, that's when, some people like tape their mouth closed and stuff like that. Again, check with your doctor on stuff like that, but breathing in our nose is very important for our nitric oxide levels as well. And so that affects the human growth hormone. So that's very, very important. What are things we can do lifestyle wise? Again, exercise, right? High intensity interval training, lifting, short, intense bouts of exercise like sprints or that intense bout of lifting, that naturally increases our HGH production. So you're going to keep seeing that theme over and over again. Another theme that you're going to start seeing over and over again, sleep. We've got to get adequate sleep, right? 7 to 9 hours a night is the average. Some people need more than that. There is a rare genetic condition where some people actually can survive actively on like 4 or 5 hours a night of sleep, but that is not most of us. So we do want to make sure that we're getting sleep because 70 to 80% of our HGA is released overnight. So if we're not getting sleep, we're not getting that. And deep sleep is important. If we're in that light, constant sleep, we're not going to get into all those hormones. You're going to hear that again in a moment with melatonin. And then nutrition, right? Again, we want to make sure that we're getting adequate protein and not overstressing our body with too much fasting or too much calorie restriction. Then we have this word is so hard for me to say, our natriuretic peptides. So we have atrial and we have brain natriuretic peptides. These are powerful hormones that interact or that regulate our blood pressure, our fluid balance, and our fat metabolism. So we want to, again, make sure that we're getting exercise. That is going to help increase and keep these hormones in balance. It's going to signal to the kidneys to release any excess fluid or sodium, which is going to then ease pressure on your cardiovascular system. So again, this whole symphony is going on. Our kidneys, important in our heart. Our adrenal glands, important in our heart. Aerobic exercise, resistance training, also play a role in these peptides. Not overdoing sodium, sugar, alcohol. That good balanced diet. We want to make sure that we are staying well hydrated. So these peptides are really influenced by hydration. Then we have our oxytocin, Most of us women have heard of oxytocin, right? That feel good hormone. It releases your oxytocin raises during pregnancy. It's known as the love hormone. So you might not always think of it so much when we're thinking about heart health. But it is very important because it helps lower our blood pressure. It lowers our cholesterol, sorry, not our cholesterol, our cortisol, which Rachele talked about. You know, if our cortisol is going up, we're going to get into that fight flight stage. Our body is not going to be able to handle any extra stress. So we want, we want to have good oxytocin levels. It's part of our parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps really affect our heart rate variability. If you've not heard about heart rate variability, that is something we can have a whole workshop on as well. But heart rate variability is very important. And it really measures kind of how we are able to handle kind of daily life stresses. How do we naturally build our oxytocin? Social connection, right? We are social beings. So with so much being online, right, it's very easy to kind of just get caught up onto our phones and not get out and actually talk to people face to face. Many of you have probably seen the little memes on social media where it's like the different generations like go somewhere and the baby boomers react this way and Gen X reacts this way. And then our youngest generation, like our, I don't even know, what are we on now, right? Like they go in to a doctor's office or a store or something and they don't talk. They're on their phone, right? They're losing a lot of that social interaction. So it is very important as we become more and more digital, which is just another, bonus for VFit, right? Because even though we're virtually, we are very socially connected, and we have things like this where we're social. It's not like we're just doing fitness from AI. So that is super important, along with yoga, meditation, breath work, all great things. So, right, being here a member of VFit, you were just like doing all these super awesome things for your body, right? Right off without even needing to get prescriptions or anything else. Melatonin, that's probably a big one that we all hear about. It is one of our heart's most potent antioxidants. We need that melatonin, right? That melatonin releases, that helps us go into those deeper sleep states. It is in those deeper sleep states when our body repairs, when our brain cleans out as well, our lymphatics, we know about our lymphatic system, our lymphatics cleaning out of the brain. We live in a society with a lot of disruptions to our melatonin production. So, way back when we didn't have artificial light, the sun came up, we woke up, the sun went down, we got ready for bed, we slept more hours. Now we have blue light, we have our phones, and that all stops our melatonin production. So some very simple things we can do, right, is get up first thing in the morning, go out, get some sun on your face, on your body, because that's going to close your melatonin production down. And as much as possible in the evenings, turn off some of those devices an hour before bed. If you are on them, I'm super guilty of this, but put on blue light glasses at least to kind of mellow out some of that blue light that is coming out. Our body, does make melatonin. There are melatonin supplements. They are, fairly safe. But again, with any kind of supplements or anything we're taking, it's really important to check with your doctor and our pharmacist, because many even natural supplements can interact with medications that you might be taking or interact with each other. And that's not always, publicized. A lot of times our doctors may not even know. So it's also really important to check with your pharmacist, because that's kind of their expertise. Doctors know what the medications do, and they know where some interact, but they don't necessarily, like pharmacists, that's what they study, how these medications interact with each other. So just be careful about some of those things, because I know, melatonin is a pretty common one. I take it from time to time, especially if I'm traveling. But just with anything, run it by your doctor. All right, just a couple of more here, a couple that you might not have heard of as much. IGF, it's our insulin-like growth factor. It really works with our HGH to repair and rebuild muscle and tissue. And again, our heart is a muscle, so it's very important for building that cardiac muscle. Exercise, resistance training naturally increase that sensitivity. Nutrition, again, all that just good. You know, eat real food, right? Shop the perimeter of the grocery store. If it looks like real food, right, eat it. The less processed, the better. I think it's so funny the way, yes, like Rachele said, everything has protein. I saw protein potato chips or something the other day. I mean, really, right. So, you know, enjoy some treats in moderation, but for the most part, eat real food. And then aldosterone, that is a fluid regulator. You know, you'll oftentimes hear about somebody that has congestive heart failure, things like that. They get fluid built up in their heart. Aldosterone is a fluid regulator. It maintains our sodium potassium balance. Cholesterol can really disrupt our aldosterone, so we want to make sure that we're staying, you know, calm and not becoming overstressed into our body. The big word is balance, right? Everything is about balance. In yoga and Ayurvedic medicine, there's the word sattva, balance. So we're always looking for balance. You don't, you know, because we say, okay, too much sodium is not a good thing, too little sodium is not a good thing. So right there in between, balance. And then finally, I just want to briefly mention, this is not a hormone, but it acts like a hormone. It's very big. You hear about it all the time, especially in social media right now. BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It acts like a hormone in our body. It protects our neurons. It supports our cardiovascular system. When we have low levels of that, we can get depression, we can get heart disease. And once again, what am I going to say that is one of the number one ways to boost our BDNF? Exercise. Exercise, high intensity interval training, strength training dramatically boost our DNF, our BDNF. So very, very important, as well as, you know, omega-3s, berries, good proteins, good fats. So yeah, right? Proper nutrition, exercise. So that's kind of that big picture of all of these hormones. I know we are almost out of like our hour time, but I'll turn it over to Rachele and she can kind of go through any questions that might have come up.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, then again, we didn't mean, and hopefully no one's like super overwhelmed. You're not meant to take all of this in and become an expert, but just the overall message that your body is an intricate machine that all works together, and you know, knowledge is power. And to have some of these baseline tests, then I don't want to speak to like any, you know, there's lots of different places to, you know, seek that information. I'm happy to share more of what I found recently. And like we said, nothing is going to outdo exercise, eating real food, sleeping. I know the sleep when I'm dead. I think we all said that at some point in life. You'll be dead a lot sooner if you don't sleep. And it's hard, you know, the thing too, I hear all the time from women, especially going through these big hormonal shifts, is like, I can't sleep. And we know one of the pillars of health is sleep. And there are times in our life, like when you have a newborn baby or hormones and stuff, that like it really does interfere with your sleep. But that normally causes, I believe all of the pillars are important, right? Getting outside, gratitude, connection, all the things we've all talked about. But we all know when sleep is out of whack, everything else is so hard to get. Your cravings are off. Everything is off. And so you have to prioritize sleep. But I think don't do that by sleeping in and skipping your morning routine. Like that might be hard for a little while to try to create a morning routine because you are tired, and because that, I'm not saying you have to crush yourself in the morning, but I do believe a healthy lifestyle starting in the morning is going to naturally lead to better sleep, because you've exhausted your body a little bit, you've exercised, you've got these hormones now working so much better because you've exercised. And it doesn't need to be HIIT and strength training every day, right? You just need that a couple times a day. So maybe it's a walk, maybe it's another form, but sometimes you have to, I guess what a long story short is, you have to give things, some discipline and some commitment and some time to actually make a change. You can't say, oh, well, I tried that for 2 days and I still was sleeping like poo-poo at night. Like, you have to say, I'm going to commit to this because something needs to change and I need to work on this. And it's hard. I know it's hard. My goodness, sleep is so, and then also the things you can control, like turning off the TV, getting off social media. And they're just little things to just work on, to, you know, look at what you're eating and just honor your body. I think it all comes down to like understanding yourself, your intuition, what feels off, and seeking that guidance and knowledge. And I think baseline testing is really important because you get to see trends. Like, we didn't go into cholesterol and stuff tonight, but that is affected by all these other things, especially going through menopause and beyond. Like, cholesterol goes up, and maybe that's not actually a terrible thing because cholesterol does help the brain a lot. Are you looking at other inflammatory markers? So there's a lot of information that needs to be looked at. And so I want to empower you. Have an awesome doctor like Ami who really goes above and beyond. I do want to give it up to her because this is important when you're seeking. I'm not against doctors at all. In fact, that's why, but I think that we sometimes put them on a pedestal as knowing everything. And they will admit that they were not taught nutrition. They were not taught a lot of this stuff in medical school, just like I don't know pharmacology, right? We all have different areas of expertise. And so to just take some power into your own hands too, and make sure you trust that. If you don't like, there's functional doctors, there's a lot of things now you can kind of get information on your own as well. So just know nobody is a know-all, be-all. And just like anything, there's people that are better than others at their job. So I don't know how many of you live. Oh, my dog's trying to get in. So any specific questions, or I hope this wasn't overwhelming. I just want it to be empowering. No, and Ami will say too, yeah, doctors with women's health, and particularly, and we have a good one in our area too. If you're local, Dr. Kim is actually really great. They have to seek this out themselves. It's just like with us in our health and fitness. Like, I am always Shari. I mean, we're constantly seeking out more education and information because that is science. Science is not a set in stone and never changes, right? Science is constantly being studied. With technology and everything that we have access to now, we're learning so much more about these early markers that we can catch before things get so out of whack that we don't want to be on a million medicines. And if you are, know that there's a lot of things you can do to balance that as well. Anita, yes, she could. Yeah, if your doctor doesn't know, don't tell him I told you. No, just kidding. But no, it's true. We need to, like, some of them, they didn't learn this, so they're not going to seek it. Some are very on the forefront of this. And there are other professionals. I fully believe in functional doctors. I believe there's a lot of information, but not just to go to Dr. Google or Dr. Instagram, who has 1 million followers, who will tell you to eat protein pickles and fast the other 18 hours of the day. So I hope, we really appreciate, and I want to say this from the bottom of my heart, like, I know on behalf of everybody that shares and is part of VFit, like, we do not take your health lightly. As much fun and celebrating and everything that we do, like, this is a long-term, like, to have a life of strength, vitality, longevity, to feel like you get to live life on your terms and to be in the game, and that when things do come up that you feel some power. I love that, power over panic. Like, some of you have gone through some really, really hard health challenges. And this is the thing, I'll end here. We don't always get to prevent everything. I'm not saying if you do all these things, you're never going to get cancer, you're never going to need a surgery, you're never going to have something go on with you. But I can promise you, you have a heck of a lot more fight in you if you're going into it healthy and strong, mentally, physically, everything we do around here. So I like that offense. So let's see, any questions? Oh, thank you, Letty. Oh, Dr. Kim is in my area. There's a lot of us out here. She's down out of Bishop, California. She delivered Emmy. I think she wants to retire soon, but yeah, she's someone that is good. And I know there's a lot in a lot of different areas. I don't know where everyone lives, but yeah, Ami, obviously, if you're in the Bay Area, I don't know if they're taking any more patients. We're not here. Like I said, I love this company, Function Health. My husband and I just started using. Lori, I know a few of you, and all it is information. You go to a Quest diagnostic blood center, like you all have them. I think it's Quest. It's one of those. If you're around here, you have to go up to Reno or Carson, and you get 2 blood draws, and literally they're looking at so many different markers. They're looking at minerals that came up. I saw some on different minerals, just different things. And so when we have this information, we can then decide what we want to do with it. So, thank you, Anita. All right, team. Like I said, we'll do more on this topic if there's a specific. I know, Stacey, I thought you wanted to learn more about. Yes.
Just real quick, I not try to make a pitch or anything, but anyone in, so my office is located in Los Gatos. So if anyone is in the Bay Area, San Jose, Willow Glen area, I am seeing new patients too. So just, you can go ahead and privately reach out to me for that information too.
You can make a pitch. You deserve it. Hey, it's not, we're sharing our hearts, and it's a relationship. I think your healthcare team is some of the most important people in your life. And it's not just, it's your whole healthcare team. I always say we're on the front lines of your healthcare team. You're doing the work every day when you're showing up for yourself.
And don't be afraid to ask for specific blood tests and specific tests. A lot of doctors, they're gonna do the generic that insurance covers. But a lot of times if you ask and the doctor says, oh, there's a need for that, insurance will cover it. And then a lot of times when insurance will not cover it, it's a pretty small fee. There are some that have, pretty expensive fees, but one of the things I like about my doctor, and she is a regular like MD, but she's also very much a functional doctor, is she doesn't guess. I mean, I get my blood work taken a lot. I get my blood work done about every 3 months for specific things, not everything. But my thyroid gets monitored, my hormones get monitored. And I mean, I pay out of pocket maybe 25, $30 every 3 months. So insurance really is covering a lot of that. So just, I just say, just don't be afraid to ask, check into it, advocate for yourself for sure.
Yeah. And also if you're someone like our family who has horrible insurance, I'm an advocate for paying for stuff out of pocket. We have a HSA, but yeah, some of those tests, I mean, we won't get into that, but just on that whole function blood panel for 2 tests a year for over 100 markers is $500. And I think, again, that could sound like a lot, or that cannot. I mean, it can cost a lot in a lot of ways to be, out of work or to not be feeling good too. So there's so many resources out there. So just, again, this is empowerment, power, not panic. I think we need a bumper sticker for that. I loved that. Good analogies to start us with: the symphony, the power, I always say, I could do better when I know better. So knowledge is really power. And again, nothing, your instincts, your internal intuition, it knows what's going on. It knows what's going on. Listen to your body, listen to yourself. If something doesn't feel right, go advocate for yourself. And sometimes, it's going to take maybe not the first place you go to. And, especially nowadays, like sometimes they are just pumping you through the doctor's office. They're just typing codes in, they're not getting to meet you. Like, that's why I do think having a relationship is important. So, all right, we will continue. I love this series. If there's anything particular, I'll send you guys the recording. And feel free, if anything from Shari or Ami or myself, you want to reach out individually. Again, this is a passion of ours. We just love this stuff. And, this is our side of it. You're going to, obviously there's science is changing and weaving and isn't completely black and white, but this is what we believe and what we stand for. So thank you. I'm glad it was helpful. That was the goal. All right. Oh, good. Dr. Kim. Oh, I know I need to get in and, I'm just reading through okay. Not a lot of questions. You guys soaked it in. All right. Well, have a beautiful night and don't stress about this. That's the last thing I want you to do. All right. Bye, friends.